300 million people around the world have been exposed to the story of Jesus through The Chosen. You don't do something of this scale, whether it's about Jesus or not, without opinions. We're all bringing our loaves and fish every day to maximize the opportunity we have in front of us. And I cannot wait for people to see this. It is going to be so good.
All right, Jeremiah, thanks for coming on the pod, man.
You got it, buddy. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith, also not the Ohio State wide receiver.
Not him.
How does it
Definitely
feel
not.
to have your Google search kind of hijacked by an 18-year-old in the...
You know, I don't think too many people were searching for Jeremiah Smith before that, so we're probably all right.
Well, I did for my prep for this podcast, and I realized unfortunately your search engine.
Yeah. You're like, wow, he has great stats.
Right. This guy's really a deep threat on the outside. Good luck. That guy's going to be around for a while.
Yes, he will be.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your background, because I love your LinkedIn, and I'm going to read, if you don't mind, your description. And we talked about how seriously people take LinkedIn. You don't. You said in your bio, my career doesn't have an arc as much as a zigzag from pastor to poker player to Fortune 1 to a TV show. However, there's a common through line, telling stories at scale.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, let's start really quick, if I could, with poker for a second. Because, I mean, of all the things, Fortune 1, pastor, we could camp out on those. But poker, Walmart, pastoring, how did you meet Dallas and get connected to 5 and 2 and The Chosen?
That is a great story. So I mentioned I felt like I was in the wilderness for a long time in that poker journey. And I have a mentor, his name's Neil Wyndham. He was a professor of New Testament at Lincoln Christian University and Seminary, and a pastor as well. And Neil, when I told him I was going to go work with Dallas and The Chosen in July of 2021, The Chosen had just really started exploding. Season 2 was about to finish releasing, and it had taken off. And he went like this. And Neil's a very deep man, very just everything he says, you're just like, you're hanging on every word. And he goes, Jeremiah, with God, nothing is wasted. And it just floored me because here I was about to have this opportunity to work. And if you go back to that original calling, suddenly I'm going to be working for a company that's sharing the gospel on a scale that's almost unheard of. That's sharing the story of Jesus with the world. And it was in 2007, 2008, right in there where I sat down at a poker table and met one Dallas Jenkins. So we actually met at a Bellagio poker tournament that Dallas went on to win. And I crashed and burned. And he's never let me live it down. But I met Dallas there, and we just instantly hit it off. And he actually said something along the lines of, "Oh, you're a Christian, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." And he goes, "So am I." And through that, I got to know his family. His dad's Jerry Jenkins, author of the Left Behind series and over 200 books. And so that was just, it was a really cool thing to meet him. I had no idea that, 16 years later, I'd go work with him on this TV show about Jesus.
Yeah.
But
Did you recognize, I'm curious, because obviously a lot of ink has been spilled on Dallas, and you're the guest here. I don't want to spend too much time, but I'm curious if even back then you recognized that he had the capacity to create something like The Chosen, or the potential.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No way. There's no way in the world
that you thought you're going to be a household name. And
no. And I think anybody, now that being said, I thought Dallas instantly was one of the smartest people I'd ever met. And I would actually say, don't tell him I said this, but I do think Dallas is probably the smartest person I've ever met. I joke, I said with 5 and 2 Studios, that we make The Chosen. I say it's kind of rare we have both, like a Steven Spielberg and the director of Dallas, and the Stephen Jobs and the communicator of Dallas, and his marketing brain. Sure. And we kind of have those two together. And But at the time, Dallas was making, essentially, small inspirational films, with deeply spiritual, but definitely kind of like smaller production. But I actually I remember exactly where we were, because it was in Las Vegas, and after we had known each other for a couple of years, and he was in town for a weekend. And I remember asking him, "Hey, what are you thinking about lately with storytelling? Have any big ideas?" And he said, I've always wanted to make something about Jesus and the disciples, but it like there's something there about, these are just like dudes. These are guys who sat around a campfire. They told jokes at night. They told stories. Like, what were those stories they told each other? And so that planted a seed with me even then, though, that Dallas had an understanding of the gospel and this idea of that, and that kind of registered, wow, Jesus was a real guy.
Right.
Right. And and that always stayed with me over the years. So I don't think anybody on planet Earth has the capacity to do and to endure and to work like Dallas has. And the reason I say no is, man, it's so clearly, for lack of other cliches, a God thing, right? This sort of thing doesn't happen.
Sure.
Unless there's some sort of special something happening behind the scenes. And I've seen that at every step of working on this project. And now, that being said about Dallas, it's very clear God has gifted him, has given him the right mix of skills, experience, and especially, I don't really care what everyone thinks, which I think is probably one of Dallas's best traits. Right. He cares what people think, but not necessarily about the project. He doesn't let people's opinions sway him.
Yeah.
He writes, and our mantra as a studio comes from his own personal experience. 5 and 2 means 5 loaves, 2 fish, and Dallas always says it's not our job to feed the multitudes. It's just our job to bring our loaves and fish. And if you think about what that little boy in that story did, he didn't plan to feed 5,000 people. He just brought the best thing he had. He brought everything he had to the table, to Jesus. And then Jesus fed the 5,000. And so I think very much that's been the case with Dallas. He brings his loaves and fish, and we've seen what God has done with that.
It takes some of the pressure off, but I do want to talk about pressure for a little bit. And I know as kind of a branding guy, some of the statistics off the top of your head because you've given a lot of talks. For people who aren't familiar with The Chosen, our listeners, rattle off 3, 4, like how popular and exceeding expectations has this show become?
Sure. Well, in 2022, we worked with a woman named Sandy Padula, who was a former executive at Time Warner, HBO, a bunch of TV networks and streaming platforms, to try to get an understanding of our audience size, of people who had actually watched one episode, and have it be by a third-party expert.
Sure.
And at that time, she ran the numbers, and based on streaming numbers, streaming data, TV broadcast data, and DVD sales, the estimate was around 115 million people had watched at least one episode of The Chosen after season 3. Now today, the number's a little harder now to land on because how many of those are repeat views? I mean, there's math for all of it.
Sure.
But somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 million people around the world have been exposed to the story of Jesus through The Chosen.
In all different kinds of languages, basically every country.
We just set a Guinness Book of World Record, the Come and See Foundation did, for being the most translated series of all time.
Wow.
And so there's a shiny little Guinness Book of World Records plaque, on the wall.
That you squirreled away in your office?
Yeah. That's not in my office.
I'm just kidding.
But and that's because there's just incredible people coming to the table all the time. And actually the person responsible for translations used to do it for Disney. So
in my initial question, I mentioned pressure, though. Is there, you've been around since season 2, around that time. Have you felt a weightiness of the responsibility with each season as the viewership grows, as the intense fans, which we can talk about later? Did you feel that pressure?
Absolutely. And we talk about, my team talks about the Chosen and working on this project being a pressure cooker, and with that dial just cranked all the way up. because you don't do something of this scale, whether it's about Jesus or not, without there being opinions. Now the shows are our exclusive streaming partners, Amazon Prime Video. And in my very first kind of brand briefing with Prime, I put a picture of Luke Skywalker up on the screen. And I talked about, how every little thing that Star Wars does is both beloved and hated at the same time by super fans, right? Everything gets overanalyzed, run under the gun. And then I put up on the screen, but Luke Skywalker didn't walk on water. So now you add the most important person in history.
That's right.
And you take 1 million people, you're going to have a million different views on who Jesus was and who he is. And so then you add that to the mix, the religious side of it. And suddenly you've got like Luke Skywalker on super religious steroids. And so the scrutiny we come under, where everything that Dallas says, I mean, he put a social post out last year that said, hey, my daughter's getting engaged. And like newspapers, like Christian newspaper sources picked that up. And it's like, oh, okay, we're in that world now.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of pressure in the sense of we want to get it right.
Sure.
And Dallas and the writing team labor over that. The Bible consultants who work with them labor over that. And then the Come and See Foundation, when they run it through their Bible scholar process, that they make sure they get it right as best as they can. And obviously there's always going to be different interpretations and different, ways that goes. But then from a marketing standpoint, we take the same idea that Dallas has and the writing team have, that every word matters. We apply that in the marketing space as well. And we believe everything we do matters because it's just a TV show, right? And we know that. We actually don't take that side of it of who we are too seriously. We're not the Bible.
Right.
We're not the gospel. It's just a piece of entertainment that hopefully drives people to
yet it is some people's only interaction with this story. It is the front door potentially.
Yeah, I would say front door versus only interaction.
Right. Most people, especially in
There's a great story about this actually where YouVersion, the number one Bible app in the world, about to pass 1 billion downloads, great partner of ours, love working with them. They noticed something, and Dallas told the story. I'll probably get it a little wrong, but they basically noticed that there was a glitch of some sort with the app one day because just all of a sudden, all these searches for Nathaniel were coming up. Like, why is everybody searching Nathaniel? And why is he such a popular search? Well, the episode about Nathaniel of The Chosen had just dropped. And that's a great, we have like concrete evidence that no, the show doesn't like replace the Bible for people. It takes more people to the Bible. Yeah. Even if they're just asking, did this happen in the Bible or not? Or did The Chosen,
great fact check us, right? Exactly. It's kind of like bring it on. Yeah.
And I am not exaggerating when I say we get thousands of messages every day. Every day.
What's the process? What is the process like? Is there somebody in the mailing room proverbially? Obviously, we're digital.
We get physical mail. We get email. We get DMs on all of our social channels and comments.
Is there a policy around responding versus not responding? Because you reach a certain level of fame and you turn off your DMs or you don't respond.
We actually have, from a marketing standpoint, we're, those every comment matters. In the early days, Dallas would stay up till 3, 4 a.m. answering as many Facebook messages he could himself because he knew it was the fans funding the show, supporting the show. So our social team probably has about not quite 20 people on it. There's about 8 to 10 currently, I believe, that all they do is respond to fans all day. Wow. That's all they do. Because that matters to us, because we want to make sure fans feel like they're a part of our community, like that they know that they're being heard. And those stories, man, they roll in and without fail, there's no one who's ever said this replaces the Bible for me. It's always, this takes me back to that source material every time.
Let's talk about the audience a little bit because you think a lot about your audience. And I think to less trained people who aren't in this space, they
Sure.
think an audience just grows organically, right? You
Yeah.
put out good content, people watch it.
Build it and they will come.
Yeah, and they become fans, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, then I look for the next. But you obviously are curating, are cultivating, are trying to get
Absolutely.
sticky. Kind of talk about what you've seen over the years and why does The Chosen, outside of the, we'll call it the religious element of The
Sure.
Chosen, which people feel connected to the Bible, their faith is the most
Sure.
important thing in their life. What has The Chosen done?
Jeremiah, tell me about how worldly you are. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay, yeah.
Why has The Chosen been so successful in building such a devoted fan
Well,
base?
I think I'm going to use, I'm a big sports guy. So I'm wearing my Bears hat now. For those of you on video, you can see that. And so I'll use a sports analogy. You watch someone go play football on Sunday or basketball on a Tuesday night, and they make the pass, they make the field goal, or I don't know why I'm talking about kickers, or they make the tackle, right? But that whatever that thing is, that's the end result of a week's worth of training, of watching film, which is then the result of months and years of years just to get to that point, to make the tackle, to make the pass, to make the free throw in the moment. And so what a lot, The Chosen is definitely a global phenomenon, but there's a lot of work we do behind the scenes. I was employee number 12 in August of 2021. And then, and I mentioned July earlier, that's when I just made the decision to join. Today we have about 80 employees around the world, and we're all bringing our loaves and fish every day to maximize the opportunity we have in front of us. And so from a marketing standpoint, what that means is, it's a fan-supported show. It started out with crowdfunding and then kind of developed into where now we have a really big and robust donation. It's all of the show's production and translations and marketing is paid through fan donations. Well, and I think this is a universal kind of translatable truth that any of the listeners who might be in the communications or marketing space can apply. I think is really important. The main thing we get wrong in our space, and I think that The Chosen and Dallas and the marketing philosophy of 5 and 2 Studios really helped me kind of see, was that we take a content-centered approach, and whatever that may be, even if you're working in a nonprofit and you're writing an email about the subject, right? You're going to make a social post about your content, and we actually start on the other side. Or we attempt to. We don't always get it right, but we try to start with the audience, and we say, okay, what will the audience respond to? What is something that we can post on social that they want and will then share? That helps us, helps them. And I think we're often so focused on our platform or our content that and even when I was a pastor, this is the message, right?
Sure.
And take this message. Versus what are the little things we can do along the way to be more audience or community centric? And kind of the first thing out of the gate that I learned at The Chosen was Dallas was highly intentional about the way he addressed fans. And so one of our core values of the show, which is also a core value of the brand, is the idea of intimacy. And so when you watch the show, it's a very intimate experience in the way it's very dialogue driven versus spectacle. So in our marketing, we're very intimate. If you can find one email or one social post where we speak or say something like, "Hey guys," or "Hey Chosen fam," or "Hey y'all," because we're based in Texas. We always speak to the individual. And I just think this is something that every communicator, every person in a comms position should just think about, how can I speak to one person? And when you see Dallas on a live stream, even, he never says, "Hey everybody, welcome to the live stream." He says, "Hey there, I'm so glad you're here." And he's always speaking to one person. And then so we do that in social and in email. in a variety of ways. We say we are very intentional about I, we, you, we. Not I, but we. If it's Dallas, it's I.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't say things like, the 5 and 2 Studios wants you to know. It's we want you to know.
Yeah.
And so we're always building that one-on-one connection. And
it's subtle, but it signals to them that we view we're equals in this, right? And
we're a part of this with you.
Yeah.
And you're speaking directly to me, not to the crowd.
Right.
And we see Jesus did that in his ministry.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I was going to say, where'd you get that? Where's the playbook
the
there?
best example ever. It's not just Dallas. But
and what's the impact of that? I mean, I think you shared with me. So sometimes, I hate when podcasts pretend like there was some spontaneous.
Well, we've
idea.
known each other for a while.
Yeah, so. and we've chatted, and you shared something with me where Dallas will text we'll call it a selfie video to, you'll do a blast.
Yeah.
Every single company is doing this. Every Fortune 500 is, going direct with their CEO, but a lot of times it will be, hi, I have an update for,
Yeah. And they're usually congenial and they're fine, but But
no one, but what happens with The Chosen when you guys send that video?
Well, the first thing you'll notice about those blasts from Dallas is he's usually in a t-shirt in his backyard or on a walk. Sometimes he's a little sweaty. One time he did one on his treadmill walking backwards with a weight pack on, right? I'm like, oh, I don't know how you do it. But the idea is like, we don't always have to be, don't get me wrong. He makes sure his hair is nice for a live stream, but he's just trying to be honest and authentic.
Sure.
Authenticity is another one of our brand values. And it's not just something we write on the wall. It's something we live out. So in those videos, the first thing you'll notice is he says, hey, I have something really important I want you to know. Like, even listen to me saying that to you is a signal. Lean in, pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't have something important to say, we don't say anything.
Yeah.
Right. In certain forums. Or it might be, hey, will I see you tonight on the live stream? Because I have something really special I want you maybe to know, or I've got a discount for you on a devotional or something like that. And so there's always this exchange of value that's happening, but it's also just so personal that we get, this is amazing. Every time, without fail, we get, oh, I'm so sorry, Dallas. I won't be able to make it tonight. We've got church, or my kids have a soccer game, or whatever. And it's almost adorable, right? Like the hundreds of responses we get to those blasts because people they feel like they're being spoken to. And Dallas really is speaking to that individual. And so I just think something as communicators that if we take a step back and we become audience centric versus content or ministry or platform centric, it's going to really help our communications a ton.
But you really have to fight against it. What's so interesting is when you get to a certain level at a company, you start to segment your audience by males, 25 to 33, females, 45 plus. And it's one of those things where you think you're being personal by speaking to, right? And it's not to the degree which you're discussing there.
And I'll note that we have not really done much segmentation, in the past. We study the audiences and we understand those audiences now. So what we try to do now is, if you look at our YouTube channel, a couple years ago, I saw a statistic that kind of blew my mind. It was our average subscriber on our YouTube channel, at the time is maybe 1.5 million to 2 million subscribers, was in their lower 30s. But the average video viewer age was in their 60s.
Wow.
So now there's a lot of ways you can interpret that, but what that signaled to me is, hey, great, we have older people watching YouTube. That's awesome. Most people don't get that. But what it told me actually underneath that was, we have a young audience that if our video viewer age is that old, that means we have even younger people in their 20s saying, hey, I've connected with a show. Give me some more content here. I need something. And we weren't giving it to them. And so we were so focused on one audience and speaking one way that we were missing these other folks. So what we did was we went through, we have an incredible agency. We work with Conscious Minds. So we did a lot of audience analysis and content analysis. And they really helped us see, hey, here's some different audience types, different types of people in your audience, not necessarily by demographic, but by interest and by psychographic. And so, for example, They said, you have a lot of fans who are very interested in the history of it. But then you have a lot of fans who are just interested in the cast. So you will go to our YouTube channel and you'll see different content for different types of audience members. And so that way we can still speak to the individual. So More to the Story is a companion series to The Chosen. And then it features Amber Williams, who plays Tamara in the show. And we take about 3 to 4 minutes and we take one topic from that episode. Like we have an episode, my favorite is called The Keys to Power. And in it, we use the same cameras they use in the show. We use the same lighting in the show and the show sets. And she's in costume, but she's not in character. So that way it's a signal to the audience, hey, this is for you.
Sure.
And so for those Bible nerds, for the historians, she walks through why Pilate could hold the Jewish people hostage. It's because he kept the high priest robes. Mm-hmm. And so the high priest had to come to him to get those robes. And so that episode explains the background behind that moment in the story.
Right.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, you can also go watch Pharisees playing Hungry Hungry Hippo in super slow-mo.
Right. So you got, you got both ends of the spectrum.
We got that Dude Perfect content and we have the history content.
Yeah. And you need it for both. And right. And you lose, to your point at the beginning, you lose part of your audience and you do a disservice to the spectrum of your fans if you're not, thinking about.
Absolutely. Now, the biggest challenge we're going to have moving forward as we move into season 6, where we have 6 episodes we'll release on Amazon Prime. Then there'll be a little break. And then we're going to have a major theatrical global feature film on the crucifixion we'll release. We went to Italy to film it. It's going to be incredible. But one of our big challenges will be, in order for that to be successful, is we're going to have to begin activating and really engaging audiences that we haven't yet. And not take such a homogenous approach to our communications, but we will have to be intentional about showing up and speaking the language of that audience segment. And so that's going to be one of our big tasks for season 6, because we think we have an opportunity in theaters for people to bring someone in, similar to they did for Passion of the Christ 20 years ago.
Sure.
But ours is a little more of an intimate look. You're going to see how people respond to this moment in time. And we think we have an opportunity for people around the world to invite their friends and family to experience the story of Jesus in a non-threatening environment. A lot of people won't go to church. They'll go to a movie theater.
Yeah.
They'll check it out. Yeah. And we hope that can be an opportunity for millions and millions around the world to experience the story of Jesus in a way they haven't, even if they had seen Passion of the Christ before, because our approach is so chosen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about pressure, the weightiness, right? I mean, there's such a intertwining of, your personal passion and purpose, right? And your faith and your work. And those are so inextricably linked when you're working on something that has the potential to, if you believe, if you're a Christian, change eternity for so many people, right? So the stakes are not, well, I hope we get picked up for another season, right? The stakes are so much.
Well, in the early days it was. I hope we can get enough money to make 4 more episodes to make another season.
Right, but here you are, I don't want to say the culmination, but you're at this point where you're kind of like, man, we're dropping a movie that has, that is going to be seen around the world.
Released by Amazon MGM Studios.
Crazy.
Right? That's crazy.
In every single household, right? Like I will turn on my Roku, my Prime, whatever it is, and you will see at some point, I imagine, in a year or two,
you'll see The Chosen.
You will see The Chosen. Yeah. And you will have the opportunity that very few people in marketing and branding and communications ever have. Yeah. You'll have a touch point with hundreds of millions of people.
Well, I hadn't thought about it that way before, but thanks, Zach. Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, but again, that's the great thing about this project, and we talk about pressure. The pressure isn't in those moments. The pressure is what's happening at home with the family. The pressure is what's happening behind the scenes and things going wrong. The pressure is wanting to give our best and to bring our loaves and fish.
And you want that pressure at the end of the day. Like if you weren't doing something important, if you were doing something menial and trivial and, then it wouldn't be worth it, right? You wouldn't want to spend the long hours working on it. You wouldn't feel fulfilled. So most people spend their entire lives, searching for something that has that sort of impact.
And I actually do. I want to give a little personal note here. I might go Professor Jeremiah from an or mentor Jeremiah, Coach Jeremiah is even when you get that thing, you're often thinking about what else could I be doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of our human condition. And dude, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. But there are days when I wake up, I'm like, oh, I'm so tired, or oh, I don't want to go to this meeting, or I don't want to do that thing. And I'm thinking, maybe I should go do something else. And then you kind of got to snap back and say, but what else are you going to do? Right.
Sure.
And so I think we're always tempted. The grass is always greener. So even in the midst of this project, that is the culmination of my career, that my family loves, that has impacted us, where one of my friends, closest friends of 20 years, runs the company and directs and writes the show. You still have that grass is greener syndrome.
Totally.
And I think if I were to give any encouragement to people, because listen, I've been in crappy spots. I've been in spots where I didn't feel like I was supposed to be there. I went from being a pastor producing poker content. I'm like, why am I doing this? Right. Well, I think the important thing in those moments is to, number one, stay present.
Mm-hmm.
Stay present in that moment. And then the second thing you need to do is you need to look around, because often it might not be the work, might not be the reason you're there, even though that's what your internal kind of career clock is telling you. It might just be the people that are there. And when you're focused on the next thing, or that career ladder, or that, that next LinkedIn post, you're going to miss what God is trying to teach you in the moment.
I want to ask you about what most people get wrong about the entertainment industry or Hollywood.
Oh man,
I'm teeing you up.
How long do we got?
I don't know.
No. Well, so again, I didn't know anything about the entertainment industry. I knew being a pastor, being a poker, knew corporate America from Walmart. But I didn't know anything about entertainment. But one of the first things I noticed is that there was this narrative. And I think a lot of Christian entertainment folks fuel this narrative that Hollywood doesn't want you to see this. And it's just not true. I have been in the offices of Amazon and MGM, Prime, literally walking around, and the only face you see on their walls is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. Because our trailer was playing in their break rooms. It was playing in their lobby. Our posters are everywhere. This is Amazon MGM. This is Amazon's Fortune 2. Prime's one of the biggest, I think the third biggest platform in the world. Okay. And now what you're seeing is platform after platform. I mean, honestly, we work with TV stations around the world. Or streaming platforms around the world. We're on Prime in a lot of countries. We're on Netflix in the rest. Mm-hmm. And we have a deal with Netflix internationally. I have been in the meetings with them. We were a big hit on Peacock. So I've been in meetings with NBC Universal, in meetings with the CW when we were broadcast there. And I've been in meetings with the religious broadcasters as well. But without fail, it's never, man, we want more of this. Mm-hmm. We want more of this. And we've signed one of the biggest deals with Prime Video that they've ever signed in terms of length of contract for 10 years because they see and they know that there's something good here. That I believe The Chosen is what led to the House of David getting greenlit, and the Wonder Project's doing amazing stuff out there. And so I think,
and you guys have a lot more on the horizon as well.
We sure do. Sure do.
I call that a natural segue, but kind of rattle off. I mean, so you mentioned season 6,
season 7. Yeah. I'll start,
and then what else is in the works that you can talk about?
You got it. So, we have season 6, which is wrapped and in the can a couple months ago. And then season 7 will begin filming in April. Those will release, season 6 the fall of next year, and then the theatrical, Easter-ish of 27. And then the same season 7 will be actually released with the feature film again, and then 6 episodes on streaming. So after that, we'll go into Moses and then Acts. And so those are all kind of in various stages of development right now. And actually Acts we'll call the Way of the Chosen, because it's how the early church thought of themselves. But right now, as we speak, They are currently filming in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They are filming Joseph of Egypt. And I read the scripts. They are I was blown away by how good they are. And we actually, the showrunner for that is a guy named Craig Wright, and he brought the idea to us. And Dallas and Ryan and Tyler, our writers, have applied the same kind of rigorous writing process with Craig that they do to the Chosen scripts. And I cannot wait for people to see this. It is going to be so good. So that's in production now. We'll release next year. We also have coming out next year, Chosen in the Wild with Bear Grylls, which is pretty funny.
The world needs more Bear Grylls.
Right.
The guy is everywhere.
Bear came to us.
Bear Grylls and Mike Rowe. You can't like turn on a TV without seeing those two guys.
No, you can't. Okay. But it's because they're great conversationalists.
Yeah, that's right.
So Bear takes Dallas and I think 5 actors individually out into the wild.
Yeah.
And gets to know them. And there's some really heartfelt moments on that. And that'll release in Prime next year.
Heartfelt moments as well as Locust and Honey.
Right? Locust and Honey. There is definitely both of each in the series.
And that was not I wasn't teed up to say that. It's just
and
then of course
right on the horizon now,
Chosen Adventures.
Yeah, man. I'm
excited for this as a dad. I have 3 young girls. Well, one's 3 months old, so she's not going to watch anything anytime soon. But when you open Netflix, when you open Peacock, when you open Hulu, any of the streaming services, and you go to the kids section, it is just, there's a lot of slop out there. There's a lot of Coco Melon, every 3 frames, they're changing the shot. Yeah. And it is just not only rewiring your brain, but it's also not edifying in any sort of way. So, we saw was it The Star, I think, on Netflix, that blew up. Yeah. And I think The Chosen getting into kids content is such a logical next step from a business perspective, but then from a, impact, not only addressing, all the adult Christians, but starting young is so pivotal.
Yeah, and The Chosen Adventures is a series that picks up where episode 3 of season 1 left off, where there's 2 little kids, Abby and Joshua, who are a little adventurous, and they wander into a clearing and seeing a strange guy out there who happens to be Jesus. And so they come across the greatest teacher ever. And that episode is so special to so many people because you see Jesus' humanity on display and his compassion for these kids. And they go and they get their friends, and the kids get to know Jesus, and Jesus gets a chance to get to know the kids. And, it's one of at the time, I think my son was about 4 or 5 the first time he saw that episode. And he loved Jesus blowing raspberries. I'm not going to do it because there's a microphone in front of me.
Yeah, thank you.
But the first episode of The Chosen Adventures is that episode of The Chosen, but from the kids' point of view. Mm-hmm. And now the kids have a couple of friends with them along the way. They have a sheep and a pigeon.
Sure.
And someone asked me, why didn't you do a lamb and the dove? I said, well, we did, just the way The Chosen does things.
Sure.
Right.
That's right. That's good. That's good.
And as actually Ryan Swanson told me that the first time. So now I just say, I tell people that.
Hey.
But that sheep and the dove really serve as kind of like a narrators for the show, and they're a way for you to experience what the kids are experiencing, and they talk to each other, but the kids just hear them, animal sounds.
Sure.
But the show has so much heart. There are so many great episodes. They're about 11 minutes each, so just like a Bluey episode.
Yeah.
And it's so well made. The animation is next level. I can say that knowing who worked on it and the amount of investment we made in it. It is some of the best animation. Well, it is the best level of animation and production value you will see on TV. It's full 3D. So we brought that level of production excellence that we apply to the main Chosen live show to this series.
And that's hard to do because you can do kid shows on the cheap.
And
you can farm it out. Yep.
All the time. Yeah. But we did not do that.
Yeah.
We made a significant investment, and I believe the excellence shines through. And I think families around the world, I think Sunday schools, classes are going to have The Chosen Adventures on because it's so heartfelt, but it's also really, really funny. And in a way, the sheep kind of steals the show. It's voiced by Paul Walter Hauser, who won an Emmy a couple years ago.
That dude's a beast.
He's
like
a
Blackbird.
great-
By the way, I watched the trailer in preparation for this, and when I saw him voicing it, I was like, the range on Paul is insane because he
was also just in The Naked Gun.
Yes, and he plays a serial killer, and he's in prison. And if you haven't watched Blackbird, not that we're trying to plug Apple or serial killer shows, but that show is like
it's intense.
Like if you don't have chills, anyway. So he's
but what that shows you is he's a master of his craft. And he wanted to work on an animated series about Jesus because of his faith. Mm-hmm. And he's very vocal about his faith. And we loved working with Paul. And I heard nothing but great stories about him along the way.
Right. He's got no shortage of scripts. He's batting them away at this point.
Yep, he is. Absolutely. He's about to be Chris Farley as well.
Wow.
He'll be great as Chris
Are you breaking news right now?
No, it's been out there for a while.
I missed that.
But then and then a woman named Yvonne, who had also been nominated for an Emmy for something, I'm blanking on the name of the show, unfortunately, at the moment. But she was tremendous as well. And then you have our normal cast of characters running through. You have Jonathan as Jesus. You have Paris as Matthew. Noah James as Andrew. And so the chosen characters pop up along the way as well. But my favorite design is Quintus. When you see Quintus, you're just going to laugh. He looks amazing.
That's great. That's great. I'm sure. I can't wait to see the numbers that show does, because I think there is such a...
Yeah, I think it'll have some legs.
If you had to sum up your leadership advice in one sentence, what would it be?
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, and it's stay present as a leader. The hardest thing to do is, I think, we're so distracted. I think I've looked down at my phone a couple times for what reason, I don't know. It's on Do Not Disturb, but we are so programmed to play whack-a-mole as leaders that there's a certain dopamine hit we get when we put out a fire or fix a problem. But the most important thing I think a leader can do in that type of culture, because your people have that as well, is to stay present with them.
Yeah.
And to seek to understand them and their point of view before you seek to be understood yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, that is a do as I say, not as I do.
Sure.
Because I'm always playing whack-a-mole. But I actually have on my calendar, there's a recurring appointment 3 times a week. I call it my AAA meeting. It's my AA meeting, actually. It's acknowledge and affirm.
You would have an AA meeting on your calendar. It's cheeky, yeah.
But and I try to find somebody and I just send them a note to acknowledge something they've done and to affirm their role within the company.
That's great.
And again, I'm not always great about it. Sometimes it's a phone call.
Yeah.
But if you're not staying present, you will miss the incredible gifts your people are bringing to the table. Mm-hmm. You're going to miss their point of view because it's so important to get yours across. And B, you're gonna just miss out on that moment and what is there with you.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so true. And somebody said this to me recently, but I've experienced a number of times in my career when you're talking with somebody who, let's say, is a leader or above you in the business world, right? In stature, whether it's a politician or, somebody who's got a lot of money, whatever. And they don't look at their phone. They flip over their phone and give you, as a young person or as an employee, their full attention. Nothing signals a good leader more than how they show up for people beneath them, right? And their presence. So anyway, it's one of those things. I love the phrase, show me, don't tell me. Mm-hmm. Right. And you can tell me that, oh, you matter to me. Right. You can send out the, note in the Slack channel that says, hey, Jeremiah's doing a great job, But if when I come into your office or when we have our one-on-one, you're checking your phone and you're not intentional, that's what people remember.
And I'm very guilty of that.
Sure, right? We all are.
And so I have to give myself those reminders. I actually have pop-up reminders in my phone to remind me not to look at my phone. No, not really. But it is definitely challenging to do that for sure. But I remember very well a couple of meetings at Walmart. I had a couple of interactions. One with Doug McMillan, who's the CEO of Fortune 1, has been for a long time. I would follow that guy anywhere. Like the individual interactions I had with him were incredible. And it's like, dude, I don't deserve your time, but yet you're giving me your full attention. It really does mean something.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book.
Yeah, don't say the Bible.
I'm not. Don't worry. It's Dune by Frank Herbert.
Okay.
I've read it a lot of times.
That's great. Favorite city in America?
Favorite city, ideally it's one with the ocean nearby, so it's more like anywhere with an ocean. But Chicago, because
So you're saying like Myrtle Beach in LA?
any of them.
Right,
we just like the beach.
Right.
Yeah, San Diego. We'll
Sure.
take it. We'll take them all.
That's funny.
But probably Chicago, just because I it's not that I would want to live in Chicago. I don't like winter, but I love going there, and just it's where we grew up. I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, getting a good Italian beef. Getting
catching
drag
Bears
that
game or
dog,
Cubs game.
drag that dog through the garden, and then give me that Giordano's or pizza.
That's great. And then lastly, you get to send a push alert to every American cell phone. It's kind of my take on Tim Ferriss's billboard question. It's not original.
Okay.
You can send a push alert to every American cell phone. What's your 1 or 2 sentences that you ping them with?
What you're going to do next matters.
And just let that be. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, Jeremiah. Well, hey, we could go a lot longer, but I appreciate your time. You're a busy man. So thanks for coming in. Season 6 of The Chosen, we're excited to see drop. Chosen Adventures, by the time this episode airs, might already be out. So
Should
go
be
stream
out there.
it on Prime.
Hopefully doing well. Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you for your time. Appreciate you coming on To The Point.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
If you like the episode, like, follow, subscribe, share, give it 5 stars, all that good stuff. Now, I'll get to the point and let you get back to your day. We'll see you next episode.